Welcome to my latest video of the SeaMax Nano Peninsula tank that is now been running for 3 months. So since the last video I've added some corals, added a pair of clownfish, and the tank has been through its ugly stage, come out the other side and looking pretty good. So let's start with the corals. All these corals have come from another tank, so there are 3 pieces of candy cane now. Put those quite high up because that's where they were in the main tank in the Red Sea Reef 450. Doing quite well, all nice and plump. Moving down, I also added an A-can again from another tank. Got about 5 heads on it. The lights have been powering up from about half an hour to about 5 hours, and this has been in the tank, this A-can, probably since about the 2-hour mark. So it's now just beginning to open up, it's getting some proper light, and fairly happy with it. And then down here there are 3 zoas. You can't really see them from this angle properly, so I'll get a different angle in a minute. But you've got an utter chaos there that's moving around in the flow. And I've got to say the flow's been pretty good actually. Now as you can see there's some snails in the bottom corner and also some snails at the back. Now unfortunately I've lost the snails, they've died. Now I've got 2 theories. Either I put them in too soon, although I've tested my nitrates, they're 0, ammonia is near 0, and nitrates are at about 20 on average, and I don't think it's down to them. I've also got in here a peppermint shrimp that only comes out when the lights are off, and I was looking the other day, and one of the snails was on its back, unable to move, and the peppermint shrimp was, I think, trying to get the snail out. Now, it could have been that it was on its way out, and so therefore it was just cleaning up, or it could have been that it was hungry and it was picking on the snails. Now I don't know the answer to the question, so if you do, let me know. I've never known peppermint shrimps to eat snails before, but it's always a first time, and you always get a kind of a rogue fish, but or a shrimp in this case, but you just don't know. So I need to decide what I'm going to do next, because I've got a small amount of diatoms just building up. Not by much, but as the lights ramp up, you can probably just see the dust in there, because that sand is usually crystal clear, and it's not. So whether to go for some more snails, or maybe get some blue-legged or red-legged hermit crabs, but we'll have to see. There's the aquascape from that angle. Really pleased with how that is. Now what I've noticed on this side of the tank, just getting some algae, some green here, which is probably not a surprise because the tank is sterile still. And even though I've been putting copepods in on a regular basis just to help build up the bacteria, build up some life, on this side I'm getting some green. So as the lights go up and the intensity has gone from 30 to 35%, these are the Red Sea 50s. So far so good, really easy to set up, really easy to control on the program that I've got. So first impressions really good. I think I'm only really going to tell probably another 3 to 6 months time when I've got the corals in there, the tank's matured, and just seeing as it's starting to grow corals when it's on full lighting of 10-11 hours, and to go from there. Really like the build quality on this tank. You can see just towards the edges there, they're a lot thicker than the other Red Sea tanks have got. That's because it's got a plastic shield. When you're cleaning the glass, you can't go into the silicone and damaging it, because I think Red Sea have had some issues with tanks bursting, and some of it is that people have been putting their flipper cleaners and going into them and been hacking away at the silicone, and that's been damaging it. So the only place there isn't is along the back there. So that's silicone to the back. That hasn't got plastic cover to it. Clownfish, juveniles, you can just see probably the female on the right, the male on the left. I'm not too sure if they've actually, one's turned to male and one turns to female because they're quite small, but you don't see that much fighting. And I deliberately went for juveniles because of the size of the tank, and they're growing out into the tank and get used to it. They are tank bred, and I wanted one slightly bigger than the others, because if you get 2 the same size, you could end up smashing one another to bits in trying to decide who's going to be the male, who's going to female. So if you get one slightly bigger than another, then actually that helps the process. But lovely fish, very hardy, and tank bred. And I don't think, in personal opinion, there's any reason to take clowns from the ocean anymore. There's so many breeders, so much choice, and when you see them in the shop, they look a bit washed out. Well, one, it's under the lights, and obviously they've been moved around, but once they've been in a tank for a little while, and these have probably been in here for about 3 weeks, they start to colour up nicely and they start to get their black edging. And when they get the black edging on them, then the colours start to pop a bit more. So they look much better than they did when I first put in there. And that happens with most fish. You buy the fish and they look much better once they've been in your tank. They're settled, they're eating, and they colour up nicely. And there's just a different angle from the tank. And you can see there is no algae or anything on that rock. And the only reason why it's on the other side, because there's the window. They can't really see it because it's dark. So moving up to the kit itself. So I've talked about the light already, been impressed with the light, although it's early days. I do like the area here with this cover at the back, as it really does help to hide all the kit you got there. So first of all, the auto top off. This one has been better than I thought it would be. Hasn't got stuck yet, and the water lasts not very long, probably lasts about 2 days. And what I tend to do is I just have a bottle of water here that I just keep underneath here, so I don't want to go out to fetch any ROs. So that probably lasts about 4 or 5 days. It's got a little drop in it there, but you can just see it works off of a float valve. So that works pretty well. And the skimmer, I'm not too convinced about skimmer at this stage. It is really noisy. So if I just switch it on. Now, of course, it's got a bed in. I usually run it at night. I don't run it during the day. And it hasn't got a silencer on it. But what I find is if I open the door of the cabinet and I hold it, you can actually feel it vibrating. So I don't know if it's because of the area it's on or there's something else that's vibrating in it. I'm not. It may be just down to me. So it skims really, really well. Gets some really good skimmate out of it. But it does vibrate, so I'm not too sure what I'm going to do long term. I'll probably just run it overnight. The second point is the return pump. The return pump I think is fairly powerful. It was more powerful than I thought it would be. But again, it vibrates and it's quite noisy. I don't know if you can pick it up. Now what I'll probably do is, if I can't solve it in the next couple of months, I might buy a new return pump. So I'm happy to keep the auto top off. You can easily replace that and put like a mini Tunzi in there. You can get one for nano tanks. But I like that, and I don't really want to spend any more money. Okay, I have to top it up, but I'm always kind of feeding the tank or looking at the tank. So to actually fill that up with 2 litres of water, which is what it pretty much holds, is no big deal. I will keep the skimmer in there, I think, but just run it at night because I can't really run it during the day. It's just too noisy. The return pump, because that's going to run 24/7. I think I'll probably replace that if I can't sort that out. But there's a couple of things I can do. Now, within the chamber here, I've got a little bit of rock rubble, and then over here you've got the sponge and you've got a filter sock as well. And that seems to do really well. So overall, happy with how the tank's running. A few things I need to sort out. Last but not least, I've got the DD jump guard. Costs about £35. I think it's pretty cheap. It's the 3rd tank I've actually got a jump guard on, and I really like it. Nice and easy to build, probably the easiest one because it's virtually square, and it's the 3rd time I've done one. So after you get used to doing 1 or 2, the 3rd one becomes a lot easier. The build quality of the tank itself, I really like it. I think it's really good quality glass they've used. The silicone looks really nice. And it's only 3 months old, so I can't see if it lasts the test of time. This here gets quite dirty, so you have to kind of clean it quite a bit, which is part of the course. And then some of the kit that I've used in terms of feeding the fish, I use this. So it's the Vitalis. I use the flakes, and I also put some pellets in there. And I think for clowns, it's so easy to overfeed this type of tank. But just a smallest of pinch of food I do in the morning, and then in the evening I use mysis or frozen brine shrimp, and I need hardly any of that as well. And then last but not least, we'll move down to the cabinet. It's a bit of a mess, but I can show you what we've done there. So not really a lot going on in the cabinet. It's got a nice lot of space. You could easily fit an auto top off coming from the main tank into this, and maybe put a 25 litre container there, but I think that's probably about overkill for a tank that's 100. But you could easily get kind of 10 litres, probably be appropriate. Got the power bar up there. 3 plugs in there. I didn't think I'd actually have a tank that only had 3 plugs in the tank, but that's a first. DD controller there. Use those on all my tanks. Really like them. Had that one for a few years. Works well. And then just some fish food testing kit there. Bottle of Dr. Tim's there. Used that in the early days just to help get some bacteria into the tank. And that's it really. Probably a bit underwhelming, the cabinet, in terms of what I've got in it, but I don't need anything in there at this stage. But well built, looks good. Plenty of room to put shelving in if you want to. And that's it. Thanks for watching.